Hello everyone, and welcome to what's going to be a different kind of review. And today we are doing a full review of the ENGWE X24, and for that I've chosen something special. So this review is going to be much more interesting than a normal one. So I'm riding to actually visit the place where the review is going to happen, and to reach that we are going to put the X24 through a whole lot of type of terrains, but you are going to see some light road pedaling, which was very stressful because it was done on a national road, plenty of cars and no one respecting any kind of speed limits. So they zoom past you with almost 100 kilometers per hour at 30 centimeter distance at most. And now, to top it up, to reach the destination, we are going to have some insane hill climb, and it's also very hot today, and we are going to get something like close to 40 degrees centigrade. So hopefully this trip will be successful. And the climbs here, as I've told you, they are really steep. And the new X24, it's until now the most powerful bike ENGWE has made. So it has an unmarked motor, but it has the all-in display with instant power here. And you can see that this one easy goes over 1000 watts of power, and I'm in normal mode. I'm not even in turbo mode. I'm using normal mode for now because I have a lot of climb to do and a lot of kilometers to ride. So I really hope that the dual battery system will last for my entire trip. Range here will be an issue. Just imagine climbing a few kilometers off-road on a very steep grade. So you are going to terminate all kinds of batteries. You are going to overheat the controller. So this is truly a torture test. So again, I'm doing 1200 watts. The bike, the X24, it's a heavy bike, very heavy bike. So it needs a lot of power to climb, but it's interesting that with all the power that ENGWE has installed on it, you actually climb rather easy with it. And I'm not using even the first gear until now, so I can use it, still climb it in second gear. And I'm on assist 3 level, nothing extreme, but I can keep a comfortable climbing rate that I still can preserve some battery and preserve my own energy. So I've climbed something about half the road until my destination. There's still a lot to go uphill, so I'm doing a short break for myself. Also, I'm going to do a first checkup on the bike. See, the motor is just warm. And here where the controller is, this is warm here. So yep, there's a lot of things happening inside. Battery terminals here are cold, battery cold. Here where the joint is for the contacts of the battery, it's cold. So everything seems fine. Also, in case you are wondering, the X24 has the largest disc brakes that ENGWE has fitted onto a bike until now. So they have 180 millimeter disc, and this thing has huge stopping power, which I really like because the bike is heavy, I am heavy, the road is heavy duty, so I really needed something to have a lot of power to help me get to my destination. So let's continue the ride. The bike comes with throttle pre-installed, and I really like that because it works in all modes, And when you want to go uphill, you don't need to force yourself to use the assistance. You just push the throttle, bike starts, and now I can pedal, and the assisted mode has picked over. So this helps you a lot in this kind of rough situations. And there's a sign, we are going to follow that. Plenty to pedal and to climb. On the camera, because it films with a very wide lens, it distorts the image and you cannot actually distinguish the incline. But here it's something like the lowest part of the climb is at least 10% grade, but in some areas it can go to up to 12 or 14% grade. So it's a very, very steep grade. And we are reaching the destination. Just in a few moments, we are going to reveal the whole area and the scope of our visit and review place. This hill here, it's really a killer, but the bike kills it. And nope, I'm not on planet Mars, I'm not on the moon, but it's starting to look that way. And we are starting to get craters because we want craters to test the suspension. So this is a full workout for our bike today. And it's getting interesting and more interesting. And look at that. In case you are wondering, yes, that's a mud volcano. Perfect place, weird place for a weird looking bike. So what's happening here is that the area around here is full of, it's very rich in natural gases and some petrol, oil, something. And in this area specifically, the gases sweep out, they combine with minerals and water in the ground. I'm not going to go into the details because I don't know all the details, but you get the idea. And they come up the ground in this area and they create this specific landscape. And there are a lot of zones here where they extract natural gases, and then they have these pipes and they conduct it to special pumping station. But this is just the beginning of our trip and just the initial part of the landscape. As we advance, it's going to get better and better. Also, this is the perfect bike to bring here because we had some really nasty storms the last few days, and those storms brought a lot of water, and water with all this mud turns into a very muddy, sticky situation. And with this bike with fat tires, you really have an advantage over this terrain, as you just float over all of this dirt. And we are getting to the bigger craters here. And let me show you. I'm going to go under these pipes, right? Oh, and by the way, this is a specific plant that only grows in this area. I don't know its name. It's protected by law. You are not permitted to tear it apart or take it away or bring other plants. This is also a natural reservation, so it's kind of protected. So we don't mess with that. And look at all those craters, but we need to find more volcanoes. The X24 also has walk assist, which it's a must-have in these kind of situations where I want to walk around some interesting things. but the bike is heavy and I need its assistance. So here we are on top, or next to the top, of one of the biggest mud volcanoes in this area. Actually, on these hills here around, on all of those hills, you are going to find this type of volcanoes. There are several large areas where this phenomenon happens, and they are all around here. But I've chosen this one because this one is less commercial. Those other ones have been made for tourists, and they are full of people, and they put nice color flags and shops with souvenirs made in China. No offense to China, but when I go to a mud volcano, maybe I want something that resembles a volcano that's made locally. I don't want to buy a Spider-Man clone figurine. So you get the idea. This area here is still in working or production mode, means that the exploitation here is still working and they are still extracting gases. And hello to my baby volcano here. And now we can talk about more details about the ENGWE X24. So you know the design, the shape of the bike from the X26 is very similar, and you get it that it's X24 because this one has 24-inch wheels. It doesn't have 26-inch wheels. This makes it somehow a lot more practical for some people because the 26-inch wheels are very large and they are fat tires. So these 24-inch wheels are actually somewhere like 26, 28 or something in that area as diameter, because it adds a lot to the tire, to the wheel. So this makes the bike a bit more compact. It's still foldable, and you can actually fit this in the trunk of your car, so you can take this with you and have some really nice adventures like I did here. So this makes it practicable, and also gives you a better geometry. If you're not that tall, the bike is slightly smaller and you fit better on this one, although you can really raise the seat a lot, and you can probably ride this even if you have 3 meters of height, because the seat, it's also the main battery, and that thing is huge. It's almost until down there, and that's the main battery. And you have an auxiliary smaller battery in the frame. The big one has something close to 20 amps or 19 amps, somewhere around that, and the smaller one has 10 amps. Both batteries are removable and they can be charged separately. The bike can run with either of those two batteries connected, so you can take one of them out and it's still going to run on the other battery. But if you run it, for instance, with the smaller, just with the smaller battery, the 10 amp battery, you are going to have limited power, because that battery will not be able to output the whole current that the controller and motor will try to pull out of it. So you are going to lose some performance, and of course the range is going to be very short, as one single battery will try to pull all the weight of the bicycle. And because we are talking about the batteries use a special device, which is a fusion battery combiner or ideal diode. It puts the batteries in parallel, and if the batteries are having different state of charge, it's not a problem. It's not like putting two real batteries in parallel with different charge. If that would happen in real life, the batteries will explode. This fusion battery combiner is very smart. It will route the current from the battery that has higher charge, and that's going to drain first. The controller will going to get power from that battery until that battery gets lower. Then when both batteries are at the same voltage, the controller will be able to pull voltage from both batteries, so they will work together. Now, that's very good because maybe sometimes you are not going to be able to fully charge both batteries. Also, the bike, as you've seen in the unboxing, comes only with one charger, so you charge one battery at a time. Good idea is, because each battery is separate and it has its own separate charging port. One is on the frame here and the other one is on the battery. You can get another charger from ENGWE and you can charge them with two chargers, practically, the bike with two chargers. So you are going to shorten up the charge time without damaging the batteries, because you are not going to fast charge, you are charging them at the same time. And still in the battery category, another interesting thing, so the clamp for this battery here, it has a locking pin, so you get a special key. So when you leave this bike somewhere, thieves will not be able to open the clamp up and get your battery, because you can lock it. And you are not going to be able to adjust it, but no one will be able to unlock this unless they have an angle grinder and cut the lever off. Otherwise the battery is secure, so that's very smart. Also, the battery comes with an integrated stop lamp that works when you press the brake lever, very smart. But you also get a regular ENGWE stop lamp that acts as a brake light and also as a red tail lamp for night riding. The in-frame battery is also removable. When you fold the bike, it has a key. The key lock is no longer placed here where it was not ideally. Now the battery has a key inside and it slides out really nice. ENGWE also put those pads that I was showing you in some other videos that the battery made some rattle noise. They added special silicone pads so the battery will not make any kind of noise and it will not going to rattle. Actually, the whole bike was somehow redesigned and rethinked, and ENGWE tried to integrate and do all the best things they did until now. For instance, they thought of this pad here. This is a silicone pad here, and that acts as a protection for the frame. When you take the clamp off to remove the battery or to adjust it, this clamp will stop here, so it's not going to scratch the paint. Also, because the frame is reinforced and you have this big fork with double crowns up and down, when you rotate this a lot, you could end up hitting the frame with the suspension. This doesn't happen because you get these dedicated rubber insulators on both parts, and those are going to protect the frame. The comfort of the bike is handled by the triple suspension system, so you get, of course, the regular shock absorber in the front. No longer regular because it's double, like on the M20, it's similar. And you have here compression adjustment, and this also locks the fork. And you also have a preload, so you can finely tune this front shock absorber. Travel distance doesn't seem to be huge. You can see some marks here, so it's about 50 millimeters, maybe 60 millimeters, but it's plenty enough. As you've seen the road that I've come through until here, it's very bad, and the front shock absorber did a good job. Then on the rear, it's obvious you get the motorbike suspension type system with two independent springs. They also have valves here. I haven't tried to adjust them to see if they really have air inside. Theoretically, you should be able to adjust the internal pressure of the chamber. Also, you can manually adjust this from here. You can make the spring, you can adjust the compression of the spring. So both shock absorbers on the rear at least have a spring compression adjustment, while you get this very complicated system that the bike has an extra pivot here with this swing arm here, and you get an extra shock absorber. So what's the idea with this shock absorber? Well, the idea is the following. When you manage to compress the suspension here to maximum, that happens when you use a second passenger and you have a lot of weight on the bike. So when all that weight makes this compress to the maximum, When this compresses to the maximum, then it creates an extra force that will force this swing arm to go up, and this part will go down because it's a swing, and it's going to compress this further. So it's going to, this is like a travel extension. So when this shock will bottom out, this one will take some of the extra load and it's going to compress more. With me at 87 kilograms and having that backpack there that today has about 5 to 6 kilograms, the front shock absorber didn't had to compress, while all the compression and suspension was done by the rear part. The chain drive system was also picked rather nice, because now you have a pretty good range here from a very small gear to a pretty larger one, and this will help you. This one is very good for going uphill, while the other smaller one will actually be able to help you pedal decently at over 30 kilometers per hour, so you are not going to ghost pedal like crazy like you do on other bikes that are designed to run with 25 kilometers per hour. Also, the shifter, it's a quick pedal shifter with plus minus levers. You can quickly change the gears up and down. Brakes, fully hydraulic, and as I've shown you at the beginning of this video, they use very large 180 millimeter disc, and the stopping power of those is really good, and they really had to do this on this bike because it's heavy, it's very fast. And talking about speed, I did manage to do over 50 kilometers per hour just on electric mode with it. So the speed on this bike is also crazy. And last but not least, talking about the speed and the power, this one uses a very interesting motor. This is a geared motor. It's not a direct drive motor, but it's very fast, and this also has a lot of torque because it has gears inside, and those gears actually make the wheel spin about 4 times slower than the internal motor runs. That increases the torque about 4 times. So at the power that this motor is draining, it actually provides a lot more torque than other direct drive motors. So I can say that this motor is by far the most powerful motor that ENGWE used on their bikes. Also, it's the fastest one, because until now the ENGWE X was somehow the fastest bike, because that was a direct drive motor with no gears, and it managed to do close to 50 kilometers per hour. Well, this one will do 50 kilometers per hour without sweating, and it's a geared motor, so it doesn't lose the torque. So you get the maximum torque possible and high speed, and this also has the biggest power that until now ENGWE has installed on the bikes. I've seen on the all-in display here on sport mode that sometimes power can go up to 1500 watts of power, which is huge for these types of bikes, because usually they will top out at something like 750, 1000 watts peak power. Well, peak power on this is 1500, which is amazing. As for other features, you get really nice hand grips because they are covered in somehow kind of looking leather. I don't know if it's natural leather or synthetic leather, but they are really comfortable to your hand. Also, they have screws that hold them in, so they are not going to slip and rotate. Also, you get the throttle pre-installed and activated on this model. Speed comes unlocked on this model, but you can limit the speed on this bike. If you are asking, you can limit it to 25 kilometers per hour. With the power, it's a delicate subject, because if you are going to get pulled over by the cops, there's no label on this bike with power or whatsoever, no certification, nothing. So you get the motor. On the motor you don't get any kind of information, no power. It just has a code with the wheel diameter such as 24-inch, and that's it. No one's going to know that this is not 250 watts or it has 1500 watts of insane power. Also, the display, you know this from the ENGWE X, the upgraded version, is the one with a lot of information, including the real used power in real time. This is readable in daylight, probably not readable in daylight on my camera. You are probably going to see something flashing or dark. Maybe you see something or maybe you don't. I really like this screen because besides having instant power, you have lots of information such as trip time, maximum speed, average speed, total distance, trip distance, and you can reset all of those, and you can quickly enter in the settings. And in the settings you can adjust a lot more things such as the assisted power level for each gear. So you have here 5 gears, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, and those gears have a table where each one can be adjusted the power level for that. Also you have 3 working modes: the sport mode, the eco mode and the normal mode. These modes will improve or remove or buff your acceleration. And beside adjusting the top power of those modes, it also adjusts how the motor will assist you. On eco mode, the motor will start more slowly and will accelerate slower. It will going to limit the top current, and it's also going to limit the top speed. So in long-term riding, it's going to improve your range a lot. Normal modes works rather normal, and it has a lot of power. I've used the bike here to climb only on normal mode, while the sport mode really makes this bike go. The motor really kicks in, so when you accelerate you get a kick in, and it really goes to 50 kilometers per hour very fast. The top speed of this motor when it's freewheeling, it goes over 60 kilometers per hour. So you can do maybe 55 with it. It depends on your weight and the tire pressure, the brakes, the temperature and so on. But this is very fast, and you can set all of that from that display, which I like very much. And here the brakes and the suspension are really making up their job. And we can go and explore a few areas a bit more. So this goes deeper into the forest. And we are going to play a bit. So doing 38, 40, and you can lock up the brakes instantly. That's going to kill you here because the road is very slippery with all this gravel. But all I wanted to tell you is that the new larger disc really make up a great job on keeping you on track. Also, they provide lots of modulation power, so you can finally adjust the level that you want the brakes to apply, and that's very good because it allows you to run through very difficult terrain and provides you with extra control, and the ride is very safe. And why not enjoy the nature a bit more? And we have here some berries right from the forest, and I can't explain you the taste because they are not comparing with anything from the stores, because they are not cultivated. They are ecologically, biologically, and 100% natural and clean. Maybe some dust from the road, but that's all. And there are also these things, I don't know how you can call them in English. These are so sour that's I don't know if there is something sour than that, but I like them. So now the fun part, we go uphill, a lot of uphill, and the temperature has increased a lot. So this is going to put a lot more stress onto the electrical parts of the bike. So we are going to see what happens. It's going to be a long climb. The bike is doing great. I'm on, again, third assisted mode here. I'm doing 17, 18 kilometers per hour, 15 sometimes, depending on the road incline. And I'm using an average power of around 1000 watts. So you can imagine how powerful this motor is on this low gear, because if I go on maximum assisted mode, I'm going to go into sport and fifth assisted mode. I'm already pulling 1300, 1400 watts of power to go uphill. 140, 45, so almost 1500. So now I'm not even pedaling, and I'm doing 25 uphill, 26 uphill, and the bike is still pulling around 1400 watts of power. So you know that they say peak power. Well, in this case, that power level is kept constant. And now I went back to the normal mode, and from here it's going to be a very long downhill. That's good for the controller to cool down, but that's going to probably boil the brakes. They are going to get scorching hot. So far so good. The suspension is doing a brilliant job. I'm just going to stop here a bit to take one picture, because I like this pine forest. Also, the smell of the pines is really nice. But I like how the road goes down and it has some turns. Again, you are not going to be able to see the level of the incline because the camera will distort things. That's how it happens with wide lens cameras. They are not showing the truth. And that should do it. Also, maybe one like this to see the road better. Okay, nice. And let's continue our ride. I'm using both brakes here, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on them. It's not like I need to do a lot of effort, but I feel how this bike is heavy. I'm heavy, and the ramp here that I'm going down is very steep, so it needs a lot of stopping power. And we are done with that section. There's another downhill coming up. Another steep one. Also like the suspension that when you go over these very rough bumps, the tires still keep a lot of traction. So even when you do small jumps over, the suspension is fast enough to keep the wheel down. So you don't lose traction and you have very good steering and braking. And now one more test. Zero assisted mode, first gear. Can I pedal this without any kind of power? Well, I actually can. I'm doing 10 kilometers per hour. It's not very hard to do it, but I can actually ride this 12 kilometers per hour. Maybe let's see on second gear. On second gear I feel a lot more resistance, but I'm doing 13, 14 kilometers per hour, and again I can keep this up for some time. So yes, you can pedal this with no battery, but not very fast and not for very long. Also, the geared motor has a one-way clutch, and when you are not pedaling or not using any kind of power, this is just going to roll and roll and roll, and there is no resistance, so it doesn't put any kind of drag, and this increases the efficiency and speed when you are going downhill because there's no magnetic cogging. And now it's time for the final conclusion, because it's way too hot to continue with this ride, so I have to return. I still have about 10 kilometers. As an idea of the range of this battery system and this bike, so today I did about 39 kilometers, and now that the battery is resting, it's showing 100% battery, which is not entirely true. But when I start to go uphill, the voltage drops a bit and it goes down to 95%. So I've barely used 5% for 39 kilometers. I did use it on normal mode and on assisted mode a lot, so I put my own effort. I didn't ride this fully electric. If you ride this flat out full speed, probably you are going to deplete the battery very fast, but it wasn't the case. So I'm pretty amazed that the bike is very heavy. It's very fast, it's very powerful, yet if you ride it in a conservative way, you can get huge range out of it, and you can actually go and explore a lot of places with it and have fun with it, and don't worry about remaining out of battery. And you know that my motto is there is no perfect product, so definitely there should be some cons beside the pros, and I have some in mind. For instance, on the rear seat, which is very comfortable for a second person or a child. For a child it's not very safe because there is no part here to hold him from not falling on the rear part. Also there is no a seat buckle, something to tie him up, and you don't have extra pegs, foot pedals on the bike. So if a person will sit here, maybe an adult, not a child, because it's safe for an adult, he's not going to have a place where to hold his feet. So there are a lot of holes here on this frame, so you can install some other accessories. It would have been nice to have some foot pegs here or some pedals fixed here, something like that. It would have mean a ton for usability, and especially if there were folding ones. So maybe ENGWE will come up with something later that's going to be compatible with this. Another small con is the brake disc on the rear. The caliper has some extra washers, I don't know why, and those washers take the caliper a bit further from the disc, so the pads will not break on the whole disc. They are leaving some space and they will break on the external part of the disc. This doesn't happen in the front. In the front, you can see the pattern is that the brake pads touch most of the disc. There is here also a small space where the pads do not rub internally, but it covers a lot more of the disc surface. While on the rear, because of these two small washers here, you lose a lot of braking surface, but that's easy to solve. You can just take those washers and readjust the position of the caliper. And last con is the side wheel refractors, because the wheel is laced in a very different way than in comparison with other wheels. This one cannot fit between three spokes. It's just fixed on one spoke, and it can do something like that. It can even rotate dangerously in this position. Luckily, as you've seen, even with all my speed and the centrifugal speed, it kind of keeps it in that way. But for my own safety, probably I'm going to remove them and try to get some other version that has two clamps and somehow fixes between two spokes, so it's held in place better. So those were all the cons, and from here it's all pros. I like the dual battery system. I like that even this small stop lamp here works. You get great tail lamp with brake light. You have adjustable rear suspension. This new powerful motor has a plug here, so you can disconnect it when you need to change the tire. Makes it the service, it's made easier. So everything is well thought. The design, the suspension was nice. I like the display, the brakes, even though that one is not properly aligned. It's immensely powerful, and it's going to stop you even in very bad off-road conditions. So everything works really nice. I like the gearing on this bike, because you can go slow, you can go fast, you can even pedal it without any kind of motor assistance. So they did the gearing right, and you can also do something like 30 kilometers per hour without dying of ghost pedaling. You are going to actually pedal like a normal bike, and it feels great. And keeping that all in mind, I also like how this feels when you ride it, because you have a very comfortable position on it with that handlebar, the geometry, and you can adjust the seat a lot. You can adapt to very tall people. And even if the bike is heavy, you don't feel that when you are riding it. It feels really nice and natural. It's very stable. You can take very sharp turns with it. It's kind of nimble, even though it's a bike it's big and, again, heavy, but it doesn't feel that way. And I also like the tires. The tires are the Chao Yang or something. I have these tires on a lot of my e-bikes, and it's curiously that I never did a puncture on these ones. They never got poked. I did see some things sticking, some small thorns from my trip previously, but none of them managed to get to the internal tube, and there's no flat tire. And I like, even though they have these very sparse small indents, they provide very good traction on all kinds of roads, including off-road one, but they also work nice on asphalt, although they make very large amount of noise, but it scares the pedestrians away. So that was it for now. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and until my next one, see you and bye bye.